Coming in at number one, once again for the third month in a row, is Coronation Street. Coronation Street remains at number one. I've talked about in October and November how Coronation Street was the best soap opera of 2021, with their character driven storylines, and nothing really changed in December. Nothing with, if you've watched any of my other rankings for the month of December, you will see all my gripes on almost every single show with the writing, and I don't really have that gripe for Coronation Street, which makes it the obvious number one. Even if it's not as entertaining as Bold and the Beautiful is, the writing is just so much stronger that it's just the best soap opera of the month still, and the best soap opera of 2021. Now we kind of moved on from the main story finally that took up most of the year, so they had to kind of dive into some of their other stories that we weren't really seeing on screen over October and November a lot. But they needed to move, and I feel like they did do a good job of moving those storylines and keeping them also character driven. The main one was probably Curtis, who has the like factitious disorder. He's been faking a heart problem or truly believing that he had a heart problem, even though he doesn't. And he's been, getting the sympathy, getting money from people while not really having a real heart problem. Emma, who of course has been in love with him, and their wedding was supposed to take place, while unfortunately for Emma, she did learn the truth and that Curtis's pills were just vitamins. And so that unraveled the secrets that he's been keeping from Emma, that he, one, obviously doesn't have a heart problem, and two, that his father is actually still alive. Now, Curtis does suffer from this real disorder, but he's also using it for his advantage, seeing as he stole money from people. And that, of course, led Emma and Curtis to not be able to get married. I felt like they did a good job with this storyline. I'm glad they finally were able to move it along, and that it, in Corey fashion for the year, they made it interesting, they made it dramatic, and I enjoyed it. We also had the other storyline where Hashim had been trying to blackmail Zidan and trying to push him to set fire to his restaurant so that they could have an insurance payout. So that is what ended up happening. They set fire to that. But Yasmin had gave Stu a job as a cook. They kind of tie that into the homeless story that they've been doing. Once again, I think commends the writing to be able to connect storylines, something these other shows haven't been doing a very good job of doing. So they connected that homeless storyline by giving Stu a job. He got caught up in the fire, got blamed for the fire at first, even though it wasn't him. Also, Zidan's ex, Mariam, arrived. That was Hashim's daughter, and what caused the problems between Zidan and Hashim in the first place. They have problems because he cheated on her in the past. Anyway, I thought that story wasn't my favorite story because I don't think Hashim as a villain worked, but it was still entertaining, and I like that they tied it to Stu and the homeless story. We'll talk about the rest of the homeless story last, because I still think that's probably one of the overall stronger stories because it connected to the main story of the year. So we'll talk about some of these other stories first. We had Max, who ended up being publicly accused by Daniel of improper conduct with Summer because Summer had a crush on him as her teacher. That was another pretty dramatic moment of the month. For one of the, I would say, C stories going on the show, they were able to, make these C stories interesting in December, since I feel like the over dramatic stories peaked in October and November, but they were able to take these B and C stories and make them interesting. And I feel like, obviously, if you watch any of these other soaps, they struggled to do that a lot. They either make it boring, which is the usual, or they will just write something really stupid, or they rush the stories. And I don't feel like Coronation Street does that. which is why the writing is strongest. The other stories going on that were probably, I would say, the weakest stories on Coronation Street. Well, anything with Fizz and Tyrone and Phil, I don't care. I strongly dislike the characters of Fizz and Tyrone. Their breakup was needed earlier in the year, and now I don't know. Obviously, they want to try and put them back together soon. I feel like that's what we're getting from the storyline. That they're gonna turn the character feel bad or something. I don't know. I don't care. I don't like those characters. The other story was Grace, who ended up leaving the show because she felt like she was not cut out to be a mother. Wasn't fond of that story either, or just Grace's exit in general. But we will get to the main story. First of all, Roy returned for Christmas. I talked about November. I didn't know if Roy was going to be gone for good or what, but clearly he wasn't. He returned to Nina for Christmas. And I think Christmas on Coronation Street overall was good, even though it was maybe cheesy or just meant to be low key. But I will take that over EastEnders and fucking Emmerdale and their overdramatic Christmas stories where they always have to have an event. I felt Coronation Street having a low key Christmas was the best decision, and it worked for the show. And it shows Coronation Street continues to be the soap that makes the right decisions. It's not only the writing, it's the producing too. Everything on this show for 2021 was the right way to go about things. Character-driven storylines, which most of the other soap operas could never accomplish, and just making the right calls when it needs to happen. Not being like the other soaps that devolve into having to do stunts to try and gain ratings or whatever. Anyway, back to the main story. Drunk Abby. Abby's been drinking a lot. She's been really pissy with Callie, who was able to move in with Adi, but we're getting a lot of Abby being annoying. And rightfully so, because, Callie was involved with Seb's death. She did not do it, but she was still involved with it. And so that drove Callie back into her homelessness. And it drove Callie to some drug use of her own. And we go back into this, we go down into this month towards the end where Abby and Callie both end up in the same rehab, obviously for different reasons, because Abby's been drinking, Callie's been doing drugs. But still, I like how they tied the two together. And I like how both of them have sides. Like you can see the pros and cons to both of them. Because I don't really like Callie at all, but I feel like because the stories have been character driven, they are able to make Callie, they're able to make you feel sorry for Callie. She's been homeless for the last few months, and now she's using drugs, and it fits the storyline. And then there's Abby, who is super fucking annoying, let's be real, but she lost her son earlier in the year because Seb was murdered, and she has reason to be upset with Callie. So all these characters have reasons for the way they are acting. It's not just shit happening out of the blue like on a lot of these shows. They've all been giving reasons for their motives. Like I was just talking about in the Bold and the Beautiful, how the characters finally have some motivations for why they are doing things. But on Coronation Street, you don't have to ask why they're doing things because the story was told the right way. And then to top it all off, at the end, we get the twist that Abby might be pregnant with Imran's baby. We have known that Imran had a one-night stand and cheated on Toya back in the early fall or whenever, but we never knew who it was. Imran had talked about it, but never mentioned who it was. And it turns out it's Abby, and that Abby may be pregnant with his child. So even on top of the character-driven storylines, we could get a nice twist to keep them going. I like this twist. I honestly didn't see it coming. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. So I like it. Overall, I just have to praise Coronation Street like I have been 3 months straight now. I've given it number one 3 months straight now. The writing has been solid all year. It continues going solid into 2022. They're making the right decisions. It's still character driven. I do feel like we're kind of going into transition phase now because the main stories have ended. Even some of these B and C stories kind of have ended or at least shifted gears. So I'm interested to see where they go in January and February, if it will be maybe too slow, if that could drop Coronation Street in the rankings, I don't know. But for now, it remains number one. Coronation Street was the show of December 2021, was the soap opera of 2021. Great writing overall.